Hi, I'm Ernie,
And I'm Matthew.
and this is Budget Nerds.
It was all in your mind.
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Welcome back to the show, and once again, we're without Ben. For those that don't know, Ben is on paternity leave. Little baby boy Gilbert, super cute. So he's spending some time with Gilbert and his family. But today, I'm super excited because we have our very own Matthew Amster-Burton on the show. Matthew is a support specialist here at YNAB, and why don't I let you introduce yourself a little bit more, Matthew?
Sure. My name is Matthew, and I work here at YNAB helping people out with their budget questions in the support queue. And I love to talk to people about investing and retirement and really any other issue that comes out in their budget. And I am based out of Seattle.
Excellent. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, investing. Not really how to, though if you're interested in the how-tos of investing, Matthew actually talked with Jesse on this topic a couple of months ago. So we'll put links to those two shows in the show notes, and you can check out those how-to nuts and bolts of investing.
Yeah, that was a really fun conversation with Jesse. I would definitely check that out if you're interested.
Oh, it was excellent. And so we're going to be talking about more of like just how do you pull this off in YNAB? How do you track your investments? And I would say, Matthew, you're the perfect person to talk to here. One, because you're passionate about the topic, but you used to also be a personal finance advisor, right?
Yes, I wrote a personal finance column for a certain YNAB competitor for several years, and then after that, worked as a financial advisor for a couple of years.
Excellent. Well, let's get right into it. The first question: can we actually track investment accounts in YNAB? Is that possible?
The answer is yes, but it depends what you mean by track investment accounts. So where YNAB really excels is taking like kind of a 10,000 foot approach to investment accounts and saying like, okay, I'm not going to track every single stock or mutual fund that I'm holding in this account, but I want to know how this account contributes to my net worth, and I want to like see trends over time. YNAB is really good at taking an investment account and letting you track it at that level and say, okay, how much money do I have overall in this account? And I'm going to update it on a schedule that makes sense to me.
So it definitely is possible. And I know that because I track my investment accounts.
Me too.
But I'm thinking about the new YNABers just signing up or maybe just signed up. And they're thinking, well, okay, it's possible, but should I do that? Is it necessary? Do I need to?
It's definitely.
What would you say to that?
It's definitely not necessary. You can absolutely succeed like your whole life with your budget without using any tracking accounts at all. If someone is just getting started, I would say probably hold off at first because you want to understand kind of the basic difference between budget accounts and tracking accounts. And I know we don't need to explain this to anyone who listens to Budget Nerds, but budget accounts are the accounts that pour money into your budget. So the money that you see in your budget categories all comes from budget accounts. And tracking accounts are accounts where I just want to see the balance of that account. It doesn't directly affect my budget. So that can be an asset like an investment account or a liability like a mortgage or other type of loan. And the value of having those in your budget, it really comes down to like, does it make me feel good to have these here? Does it make me feel like I'm making progress toward my goals? If so, include them. If not, don't. And that's totally fine either way.
Yeah, I know when I first started YNAB, I did not include any of those accounts because that stuff wasn't even on my radar. I just needed to get a handle of my money.
Right.
But as the years went on, I was like, oh, I need to add these now.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point because like, I think for some listeners, you're going to be at a part of your financial life where you're not ready to start investing. Like there's a lot of pressure out there, I think, to like, make your money work for you by investing. And if you're at a point where like you're paying down high interest debt or trying to break the paycheck to paycheck cycle or get off the credit card float, like it's okay to prioritize those things over investing. Like, that is also making your money work for you. And, we're a couple of middle-aged guys who have gotten to the point in our life where we can prioritize investing. And if that's not where you are yet, like, YNAB is here to help like in every part of your financial life cycle.
Yeah, that's a great point. I came to YNAB and I was all about, I just need to get out of debt.
Absolutely.
I can't even think about investing. I mean, I think I was doing like 1%, into my 401. I was well into my 30s at that point. So, okay, well, let's talk about the how-tos. for those folks that, this would be of benefit, right? They kind of get fired up watching their balances from month to month. How do you track those investment accounts in YNAB? Maybe we can actually both talk through our own process.
All right. So I have too many different investment accounts. And the reason is largely because my wife is a public employee and has access to like a bunch of weird things, like not a 401k, but a 403b and a 457. And like, we want to make sure we're using those things. And they all, because of the vagaries of the tax system, are all separate accounts. And I do include them all as tracking accounts in my budget. And I update them once a quarter. That's the cycle that feels right to me, because okay. I at one point I was doing it once a month, and I felt like I'm kind of just thinking about my investments more than I feel comfortable with. And so, there is like real research showing that like the more closely you track your investment accounts, the worse your performance is on average. And it's because like, if you're looking at your investment accounts all the time, you'll see like, okay, this thing went down. I feel like I need to do something. And so for me, I found that once a quarter was enough. That like once, I think it's coming up because we're recording this end of March, like April 1st, I'm planning to go in and use the reconcile function to update the balances of all of my like 11 investment accounts.
11. Yikes. So that is you, because you can't connect these accounts. Like direct import does not work with investment
That's
accounts.
right.
So you are logging in to every investment account, all 11, getting that balance, and then updating it via the reconciliation feature.
Yeah. And one thing that I noticed that is kind of timely is like, I think it is good to do this if you are going to track your investments. Like I feel a little apprehensive about my next update because I know that most of those accounts have gone down in value since January 1st. And so I'm going to be going through and reducing my net worth in YNAB, and that's going to feel crummy. But it's also, just how we say, like, the budget reflects reality. And like when you feel YNAB broke, that can like push you toward better decisions. I think the same is true with investment and loan accounts. Like if you're going to tell the truth to your budget on a good day, you got to do it on a bad day too.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I started tracking my investments right in kind of the middle. It was a number of years ago. So we were in that bear market, right? That's when bear market, is that when things are going well?
Bear market is when things are going badly. Bull market.
What's the good bull market? That's what it is. Yes. So yeah, we were in that bull market. So I loved logging into my accounts, and I only have 4. So my wife and I each have a 401, and then we each have an individual
I'm jealous.
I already contribute to. So it's really simple. It's not 11, but I loved logging into those accounts because everything was always going up. There was maybe 1 month of the year where I would see a decrease, but that was enjoyable. But yeah, I'm with you now. It's like, things haven't been going as well.
Yeah.
And so the past couple of months, there's been some losses, but I'm still doing mine monthly.
Yeah, and I think like sticking to that like really is valuable, because like part of investing is things don't always go up. If you're investing in something that always goes up, it's probably a scam. And so like, having that feeling and getting past it and saying, okay, like things went down. That's something outside of my control. I'm not going to stop investing. Next, we'll see how it looks next month. That's just how life works. Like that's a really good experience to have under your belt.
Okay. So I think you said you do this at the end of every month, correct?
I do it quarterly. So like at the beginning of each quarter.
At the end. So at the end of, that'd be March 31st here, tomorrow, actually.
That's right.
Okay. So I do mine monthly, and I'm always doing that at the end of the month as well. Now, do you make this a special occasion? Are you drawing a bubble bath like I do, or breaking out an adult beverage?
Oh, that would definitely help. Usually, like I'm sitting on the couch in my pajamas. So, like, if you don't mind having that image in your head.
The one annoying thing about that whole process is logging into my wife's account.
Sure.
I mean, I love updating those numbers, but one of her accounts has that one-time passcode. It gets sent to her phone, and so it's always and generally I'm on the couch next to Christy as well, so it's, hey, what's that code? But if she's not in town, I'm like texting, like, what's the code? Give it to me. I got 60 seconds to enter.
Oh yeah.
this.
My wife is so used to me saying, could I get that code for your Treasury Direct account? And like, I think like if you wanted to steal my money, just like, dress up as me, like come into my house and say like, honey, can I get that Treasury Direct code? And then you could like make off with all of
it. Yeah. I've even thought of, maybe I should put something, or, some sort of like secret word around here. So that it's actually me asking for that code. But
is that what people call a safe word?
Fun. I think so. Good. All right. Well, this is a good question. So some folks might be listening to all this of like, okay, you can track investment accounts in YNAB, and that's something that I want to do, but it's a very manual process. Right. Maybe some folks just aren't interested in that. Are there any better tools for tracking those investment accounts?
One thing that comes to mind is Google Finance. Which kind of just popped into my head, which is a tool that I do use. I have added like my individual like mutual funds to Google Finance, so I can like kind of keep an eye on that just out of curiosity, even though probably I shouldn't be that curious. But that is a free and really, the display, the interface is very clear, and it works well if you just have some mutual funds and stocks and want to know what they're doing. For really like tracking all of your accounts and the individual investments in them, first of all, like I would encourage people not to do that. Like set up a an asset allocation, like an overall investment plan that makes sense to you and like how much risk you need and want to take, and then don't get bogged down in the details. Rebalance on a schedule, and you don't need like. You absolutely do not need to look at your investments at that level of detail in order to succeed as an investor. But if you want to, there are some good spreadsheets out there. Like if you go to bogleheads.org, that is like a free group of like a discussion forum for fans of Vanguard founder Jack Bogle, who passed away a couple of years ago. And it's all about like low cost index investing. And you will find any number of cool spreadsheets in there that will let you track your investments, like automatically update them in a Google sheet, play around with retirement scenarios, whatever you like. It's real nerdy stuff.
Do you use any tools outside of YNAB?
So I use I have a retirement calculator that I like that is not really based on like the specifics of my investments, although it asks about like my overall asset allocation, like how much in stocks, how much in bonds. And the one that I like best, which is super nerdy and so it will appeal to budget nerds, is called CFireSim. That's CFireSim.
Cool. I just use a spreadsheet that I created and I track how much I've contributed, just to give me because I have this idea of how much I need for retirement.
Yeah.
And then I've broken that down into, okay, what does this mean every year? How much do I need to save? And so that's just kind of, I don't really make it. I guess I do make decisions based on those numbers, but usually it's just a decision once a year of, I think I need to ratchet it up a little bit, or maybe I'm fine. I can just keep it the same. But, I'm probably in that spreadsheet like 3 minutes at the end of
right, and that's
month.
an area where the budget part of the budget really shines. Like I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but like the budget can help you answer the question of like, okay, can I afford to invest more? Like that's what the budget is all about.
Well, let's dive into that because that is what this is all about. And so how about you just kind of take it away, talk about how we can use the actual budget to help us figure out how much to invest.
Okay, so one thing that I always like to remind people, because sometimes people will, feel discouraged because they say like, I'm paying off my student loan. I'm paying off my credit cards. Like I feel like I can't invest right now. And the answer to that is those things are saving. Those things contribute to, your being able to retire because you have to pay this off at some point. And, having high interest debt is an opportunity in the sense that if you have a credit card that's charging 16%, I can't get 16% on an investment, but you can get a 16% return by paying off that credit card. So you should prioritize that over any investment, except for maybe taking your 401k match because that's free money. So when it comes down to the budget, like the principles that help you answer, like how can I, the same principles that let you answer, can I attack my debt yet, are the ones that let you answer, how much can I afford to invest? And there's a great article on the YNAB blog called something like the best method for staying out of debt forever. And what it comes down to is is there enough money sitting around in your budget, and in particular in your true expense categories? Because being able to put money toward things like debt repayment or investing that are very important but also discretionary is like, can I trust that money is going to be there in my budget to cover the stuff that comes up, so that I don't have to then like immediately change this plan and, take on more debt or stop investing, or, worst of all, like pull money out of my 401k and pay a penalty. So when you're ready for that, because there is enough money in your budget that you can look and say, okay, like I feel ready for the next car repair.
Yeah, that's a great point, because, right now in our budget, just because of some change in circumstances, I would say things are pretty tight.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't have the margin we used to. I mean, there are probably 1, 2, maybe 3 categories every month that we're not able to fund at all. And sometimes nothing, or not completely, but sometimes not at all. And so, yeah, the thought is, well, there's no money available to, invest a little bit extra, put something towards my Roth, but there actually is.
Sure.
If I go through my true expenses, because I've been doing it year after year after year, and some of those balances are at a point where either I don't need to keep contributing to them, or I could take a little bit out, repurpose that money for something else.
Yeah. And so the point is like that from your budget's perspective, and sometimes people write in and are frustrated because they say like, okay, I made a contribution to my Roth IRA, and YNAB's, income versus expense report is telling me that's an expense. Like, how can you call that an expense when I'm investing in my own future? And the answer is like, YNAB takes a really expansive, to use a nice term, view of like what's income and what's an expense. If money's coming into your budget, that's income. If money's going out of your budget, whether it's for a good reason or a wish you didn't have to reason, that's an expense. And that's, that can be surprising when you start with YNAB, but it also means that you can treat those things just like any other expense and use the budget to help you prioritize them.
Right. And talking just a little bit more about this, I like YNAB so much for so many reasons, but because it is cash based, right? You're only working with the money that you have. You always know exactly where you stand in reality. And you can always make decisions based on your priorities.
Yeah.
You're not working with the monopoly money or forecasted dollars. And I don't know, if I just sit and stare at my budget long enough, I could figure out something new if I wanted to do, with that money, right?
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't have anything.
I was going to say, like, one thing you can do if like you're looking at your budget and like, I really would like to invest more, and I'm just like not sure if my budget is ready for it. There is a great Hannah video, and I know you know the one I mean, although I can't remember the name, about like, can I afford this? I think it's called. And the idea is you model this in your budget by assigning money to a category and then just doing nothing with it. So like I would say, I want to see if I can invest $100 a month. Well, I don't want to put that into my IRA and maybe have to withdraw it if I was like too eager. So I'm just going to assign that to like an investing category and just let it sit in my budget, sit in my savings account for now. Like, the cost of not investing that money for a couple of months is not very much. And after, a couple months, you'll know, okay, I didn't have to pull any money from that category. It was fine. And now I can send this whole big lump of money over and save $100 next month. That's very satisfying.
Yes, that is very satisfying. And it's such a very cool idea as well. I like Jesse's idea of making those small incremental changes. I think what he recommended, this was years ago, just increase the 401 1% every quarter. 1%, you're not going to feel that.
Or even 1% every
10,
year.
15, 20 bucks.
There's no amount that's too small to matter.
Okay. I thought there was something else I wanted to say about Oh, I know. And this is getting really, really nerdy. Okay. Because you mentioned about those retirement contributions or the investment contributions being that expense.
Yeah.
And that's because the money's leaving the budget, right? It's leaving a checking account, leaving the category, or it's moving from a checking account to a tracking account. But you could move that money from a budget account to a budget account, meaning from a checking account to, say, an investment account that is a budget account. And YNAB sees that as a transfer. So that's not money leaving the budget.
I know people who do this.
Do you recommend something like that?
I have occasionally recommended it. It's not something I do myself. So the idea is that, one or more of your investment accounts would be set up as budget accounts in YNAB, and you would be giving those dollars jobs in your budget. And let's start with the disadvantages of that, which is like, the money in your checking account doesn't go down in value. I mean, it might because of inflation, but from the budget perspective, like the nominal amount of money, like you don't have to worry that tomorrow, because of the stock market, my checking account has less money in it. And so that means from day to day, you can trust your available amounts in your budget. That is not true for an investment account. So if you want to have an investment account as part of your budget, you need to have a category in mind that money is going to come out of when the market goes down. And the places where I have occasionally recommended this to a YNAB customer, and Jesse talked about this on the YNAB podcast recently, is someone who is in retirement and doesn't want to draw from their account every month. They want money. They want to like make plans going out a year or two for money that's in their retirement account, but they don't want to turn that money into cash and leave it sitting in their checking account and have it uninvested for that time. And so in that case, as long as you really understand, like, I'm going to need to update the balance of this account regularly. Sometimes it's going to go down and I'm going to need to take money out of a special holding category in my budget. It's okay to do that and use YNAB to give jobs to dollars in your investment accounts. That doesn't come up very often.
It sounds like, I was going to say, it sounds like that is a pretty rare occurrence. And just hearing you walk through that, I'm like, I don't think that's something that I would do.
Like I'm still a while away from retirement, but it is something I think about. And like, I wonder, like in a true budget nerd fashion, like, how will my budget change in retirement? Should I put an investment account on budget?
Okay, so how much do you actually think about that future budgeting, Matthew? I mean, are you running through scenarios? This is how I'm going to budget when I'm retired?
No, but this is a question that comes up, in the support queue that YNAB customers ask. And, as someone who has like worked with people on retirement planning quite a bit, like, when someone asks, writes in and says like, I just retired or I'm about to retire, what should I do differently in my budget? This is a question that we get. And so as a matter of like my job, I have to think about it. And when I do, like, I can't help thinking about, okay, like, would I give myself the same advice?
Yeah, I don't think about it that much, probably because I know it's going to change so much, and I just don't want to deal with it at this point.
I'll tell you what, Ernie, like I'm a little older than you, and like I just got to a point like a year or two ago where suddenly, like without anything in particular happening, the idea of retirement turned in from like, this is probably never going to happen, and if it does, it's going to be 100 years from now, to, oh, I can sort of like see this on the horizon now, and like the decisions that I make today are going to have a big effect on that. Like, I don't know if that switch is going to flip for you, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Interesting. We'll see. I know the one thing that I'm always thinking about is taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh boy, that seems like it's going to be really messy and
absolutely it is.
And maybe that will be a future Budget Nerds topic. When we're retired, we'll come back and we'll enlighten the masses.
I literally just got a book from the library that's like a 300-page book, mostly about taxes in retirement, just because I'm a really fun guy.
All right, your Friday night's planned.
Yeah, so next week, book club.
There we go. All right, excellent. Well, anything else, Matthew, about tracking investments in YNAB that you want to mention?
No, I don't think so. Like, really keep it simple. Like you don't have to track your investments, but if you do, don't feel like you have to update them every day. Like some of the world's best investors just don't look at their portfolio that often.
And then you can look at that cool net worth report. And if you're someone who doesn't make a fresh start every single year, you can see that net worth over years, maybe decades. Those graphs always make me super jealous. You see them on Reddit or something like that. I'm like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't do a fresh start every year.
I mean, you could. This is Budget Nerds. You could like make a tracking account and put some like, past net worth entries into it.
Yeah, I think Ben has mentioned that to me before, but even for me, a budget nerd, I like to think of myself as a true budget nerd. I'm like, oh, that's
no,
too
I did
much.
A fresh start last year.
I don't know how much value I'd give that. All right. Well, do you want to do some YNAB wins with me?
I would love to.
Let's do it.
All in your mind.
All right, folks, we have 2 wins for you. I'll start, Matthew.
All right.
First win here is from Amy. Amy says, I'm turning 50 this August. Just before COVID hit, I finally finished a degree I'd started years and years ago. My job started paying us extra hazard pay for COVID and have kept it up all throughout. I took every cent of that and put half in my retirement and put the other half toward a down payment on a home, which I just closed on last week. Watching that savings goal grow week by week over the past 2 years gave me so much motivation and joy. I'm also debt-free aside from this mortgage and my student loans, which are minimal.
That's
awesome.
fantastic.
There is so much awesomeness in this. There's that degree, Amy. Congratulations on that. The new home, awesome. Congrats. And then there's that savings, which contributed to that new home. So, boy, I think the key there is Amy had that goal. She knew exactly what she wanted to do with those windfalls, and then just, assign the money to the categories, and watching the numbers grow was the motivation and the joy to keep going forward.
I love that about budgeting, that I know for me, if I had gotten that hazard pay before I had a budget, I would have just made it disappear and wouldn't have known where it went.
Absolutely.
This one's from Lee. As of today, I am officially out of credit card debt for the first time since I was in college, so 20 years. Thank you to YNAB for making this moment possible. I never would have gotten here without the app. Truly life-changing. Lee, congratulations. That is an incredible accomplishment, and we're so glad that YNAB could help with it.
Absolutely. And I'm sure I know there was a ton of hard work that Lee did.
Oh, absolutely.
That made this happen.
YNAB was a small part of Lee's amazing effort.
Very small. Jesse always says that, but and I completely agree. They did the hard work. So glad we got to be a part of that. All right, excellent. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for being on the show. This was a real joy. I've been looking forward to it for a couple of weeks now, and I'm just glad we had this chance.
It was a dream come true for me. I've been listening to Budget Nerds pretty much since the beginning.
Well, maybe we'll have you on again sometime soon. All right, folks, thank you so much. And again, if you have a YNAB win, don't hesitate to comment in the YouTube comment section. We would love to highlight that in a future show. But until next time, a couple weeks, happy budgeting. Take care, folks.